Okay. Okay, our recording has begun, and I just want to welcome everybody to week 7, to our weekly Zoom class, and I hope that you are having a productive week so far. I know that every day is a new experience in the school business, and some days are more frustrating than others, right, Marshall? Marshall and I have already talked, but we all right. Marshall's already better, so we had our one-on-one session, so we'll be all right. But I do understand, I got some a message or two from a couple of students, and one of them in particular dealing with a family crisis at this time, and so keep this person in your thoughts and prayers. You don't have to know who it is, but just know that it's pretty serious for them right now. So they sent me a text message while they were on their way to the hospital with a family member. So just please remember that. Just want to let you provide, and you can find this under week 7 in your course syllabus in Blackboard. And Dr. Crawford, I don't know if you've had a chance to get yours in there yet. I sent you a message, but this agenda, if you'll place it in their Blackboard as well, and they'll have that. This is going to be, I just want you to see, and this is something you can refer back to as you are listening to your, referring back to your Zoom video, but this will basically give you an idea of what tonight's going to look like. We may deviate a little bit from it, but this is kind of let you know that that these are the 3 topics that are going to be discovered intermittently throughout the evening. Dr. Crawford's going to be talking about teacher effectiveness and student scheduling. Dr. Shepard's going to be talking about action plans and professional development plans, and then Dr. Hamilton's going to bring closure to our topics this evening with marketing your school. And all of these tie back to the related readings that you were required to do this past week. And you can see that if it's in yellow, that means that I'm going to be either speaking or I'm going to be moving through that. If it's in green, that is when they're going to be speaking. So Dr. Crawford will be beginning our session this evening, and then we'll refer back to this and move back and forth with it throughout the afternoon. Let me minimize that and then come back out. Week 7 agenda. And I'm still learning how to maneuver this, so sometimes I do what's easier, and I'll just go back over here and click on, there it is. Okay. Dr. Crawford, I think we're going to begin, we are going to begin this evening with your presentation on teacher effectiveness and student scheduling. And the documents that we have here, if you will let me know what you want me to open and when you want me to open it, I can move forward, and I'm going to let you take charge of things now.
Sure. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Hope everybody is having a good week. And because Dr. Shepard is going to be talking about action planning, we can come back to the lemon dance, even though it's only 1 minute, 11 seconds. If you could open up the document on the first one. And ladies and gentlemen, yes, sir.
Okay.
And so as I was kind of thinking about how to kind of narrow this down for you so that you understood it, and scroll down to the second slide. Okay, there we go. Next one.
And let the students, you will have access to all of these things in your Blackboard shell under week 7.
Next one. Okay, right there. Stop right there. Perfect.
Okay.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, if I want you to take anything away from this portion of this evening, is this. Whether you're in elementary school, whether you're in middle school, or whether you're in high school, where you schedule students, where you physically put them, what adult is with them for that 175, 180 days is one of the most important things after hiring good teachers to begin with that you will do. This is part of a larger EVOS presentation that was given to DPI. And what you're looking at is a group of students who, as you look on the left, roughly start about the same place. And over the course of 2 years, students in the dark blue were given a highly effective teacher, and students in the red were given a low effective teacher according to EVOS. So what you're seeing here is not only can the effects of having a low performing teacher or a low rated teacher based on EVOS affect you for 1 year, but unfortunately those gains can tend to perpetuate over time. And so, yes, it's about making sure that class size is right and you've got the right teacher teaching the right class, but then that whole notion of data diving, that whole notion of having, as Dr. Shepard pointed out a couple of weeks ago, being able to have those crucial conversations, that ability to look at your data, look at all of your data, and understand what that means to the individual students that those teachers are going to be teaching is absolutely important. So this particular chart would hold true if it's an elementary school. So think about a kindergartner, and now by second grade, the students in the dark blue are clearly getting ready to go into third grade, ready to go and pass that first EOG. Whereas life for those students in the red cohort has now gotten immeasurably more difficult. And if you look at how fast those lines continue to separate after the second year, you could face a situation where you could have potentially a first or even second grade teacher that could be in a position to make life difficult for kids graduating high school. I mean, that's how significant this is. So whether this is an elementary school, whether it is a middle school getting ready to go into high school, or whether it's, and high school has even more dynamics because, you know, I've been here longer and I've deserved to have the AP calculus classes and those great kids. But who are you putting your students with? Do your most vulnerable students have your best teachers? And you will find that is not as intuitive as you may think in far too many of our schools. Not only does this gap perpetuate, but for those students by the end of 2013, it would take 2 to 3 years just to get them back to where they were in 2011. So, folks, what I want to leave with you this evening is this. Who you put your students with matters. Make sure that you are looking at all of your data. And then make sure that you have the ability to have some crucial conversations, whether
Okay, we're losing you,
it's with
Dr. Crawford. We're losing your voice. Say that last statement again.
Experienced teacher in a high school that you may need to pick up a section of two. A teacher that's now had 3. I said whether it is that experienced teacher who feels that by virtue of his or her experience, they don't have to teach 9th graders or 10th graders anymore. They've earned the right to teach AP this or calculus that. Or whether it is that on the other end, whether it's that teacher now that is in their 2nd or 3rd year of negative EVOS growth, and what type of coaching you're going to put in place to get them where they need to be. So scheduling is more than just dropping them in the computer and see what it spits out. There are times when you have to be very, very, very intentional about what you're doing. I originally found a study from Tennessee. So, by the way, folks, this is not specific to North Carolina. You will find this in some form or fashion in just about every state. But I found a study in Tennessee where they measured and looked at the number of students in lower classes with high-performing teachers. And what they found was less than half of students that really needed them had access to a high-performing teacher. So, folks, scheduling is it's something that must be taken seriously. It needs to be data-driven. But again, you need to look at all of your data, because as you look here, just 2 years with a highly effective teacher and 2 years with a teacher that is not high performing has significant consequences. And in many cases, you could really set a kid, especially if you're in elementary school, you could really set a kid up on a path that is much, much more difficult than it has to be.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Crawford. And you will see how this ties in to, it ties directly into what Dr. Shepard's going to be speaking about in just a few minutes. You want me to hold off on the lemon dance right now, Dr. Crawford, right?
Yeah, because I think I found it and I wanted to play it, but if Dr. Shepard's doing action planning, then I think the lemon dance probably go better with him.
Okay, well, you let me know at what point during Dr. Shepard's presentation, just say, now's the time for us to do that. You just let me know that, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Let me see. Okay, now let me pull this back up.
Dr.
Okay,
Stephan, if you can start with the NC policy manual.
Okay, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this, and then we're going to come down to you next, okay?
Perfect, yeah.
Just as a reminder on the agenda, that now I'm going to go into reminders of week 7 assignments. And as we're doing that, I just want you to remember the final draft of, you're working on the final draft of the APSL and the Turnitin process. And I'm going to go to Blackboard in just a second. Remember, the APSL assignment Dropbox allows multiple attempts, and you can still place it in the discussion board as well. But you will place your final assignment, APSL assignment, in the Dropbox, and I'm going to go show you that in just a minute. As you're working on things, please remember, make sure that you have followed APA. Look at your figures. Make sure that it is according to APA, and that you have, it's where the numbers are where they're supposed to be. You've done what you're supposed to do. You've explained what it is in the description. Please make sure you've done that. Remember, there's one reference section. Double space the text in that. Remember, there's one appendix, and it goes after the reference section. So, these are things, just reminders. And then I'll show you in just a second, once it's submitted and graded in once graded in task stream, you're to provide the score in the APSL screenshot in Blackboard. I will tell you, there are, I think out of the group of students, there are 5 students that have successfully submitted the APSL. It has gone through the Turnitin process. It has been graded in task stream, and they are completely through. So, and very high scores. I think out of the 5, 4 of them ended up with the high score you could get a 4. So I will say you're doing something right. We're doing something right for you to be able to accomplish that. I want to go to, and I thought I had saved it. I'll have to bring it back up again. Let me go to Blackboard and let me pull that up and show you exactly where I am, just as a reminder, where I'm talking about, so that there's not any. Let me bring that back out over here. Okay, here it is. I can't believe I can remember where all these arrows are. Just as a reminder, okay, the APSL task for review completed. Okay, completed peer review APSL. Here's the APSL assignment Dropbox. And this is where I was talking about that if you go to the bottom, APSL Task 5 Final for Evaluation, this is where you have multiple attempts. If you submitted Task 5s, which were your competencies, the 12 competencies, then you can also go back in there and you should be able to submit the entire document for another look at as well to say that yes, it's ready for the turn it in process. So this is where you go, and you can also put it in back in your in the discussion board as well. Some have said they figured it out. They said, if I put it in discussion board, then you're going to give me points for that, and if I put it here, you're going to give me points for that too. So they're vying, people are vying for the points. So if you put it in both places, it's going to be looked at with no problem. Now, once you get the approval to put it into the turn it in process, remember that process is also on here, and don't go to the AppTel. And some of you have made the APSL turn it in check. There it is right there. This is where you go and you submit it to the turn it in, and it'll tell you what to do. Now, as a reminder, you're not going to, you'll know what your you'll know what a score is, but other than that, you're not going to get a report back. This is not designed to get a report, and the thing is, we want to make sure that you're clear, that there are no copyright issues in there, no plagiarism issues as it appears. We know what we're looking for. So you're not going to get, the only thing you're going to get back from us is that it is, or to submit to TaskStream once we have looked at that. So don't try to go in there and generate something that you're not going to get, because it'll only complicate matters. All you got to do is turn it. Now, once it's graded and you've got your APSL score back, do you see this area right here? It says APSL Final Screenshot. You take a picture of that score that you get back, and it'll say 4 out of 4.0. The highest you can get is 4.0, and if you got a 4, it'll say 4 out of 4.0, or 3.5 out of 4.0, or 3.75 out of 4.0. The thing is, you do not want to go below 3.0. If it goes below a 3.0, that means that we've got problems, and we've got to go back and we've got to revisit some things. Our goal is to make sure that you do not get anything below a 3.0, but you want to strive for the 4.0. And once you get that score back again, this is where you will put the score in there. And once you put it in there and you get a response back, congratulations, job well done, whatever the comment is, then you are completely through with the APSL process. Evidence 1 will come. That's the last thing you do to get clearance with the APSL, and then you will be completely ready to move on to the AppTel. Okay, so just that is all. That is a reminder of things. Okay, now at this time, I'm going to come out of this and I have not learned how to do this like Dr. Lamb, so you'll have to bear with me. I'm still figuring it out because I'm scared I'm going to lose something, and I know I won't, but it's easier for me to do this and go back in until I can figure out how he saves all this stuff. I still can't figure out where he puts all this stuff. So, but I'll get it. We're going to go back into week 7. And Dr. Shepard is going to be sharing with us at this time, and this is a continuation of what Dr. Crawford was talking about, but he's going to be talking about teacher action plans and professional development plans. And Dr. Shepard, I put everything you sent me there. You just let me know what it is that you want me to open up, and then Dr. Crawford's going to let us know at what point the lemon dance that he goes along with what you're going to be talking about.
Thank you, Dr. Stedman. And we just have just 5 or 10 minutes to spend on this topic here. But the documents that have been loaded on here, as with Dr. Hamilton and Dr. Stedman and Dr. Crawford, just make sure you go through some time and look at these. And especially some of the ones I put on here, you're going to want to keep for future reference. Dr. Stedman, if you could start by clicking on the NC Policy Manual for Teacher Evaluation Process.
See, 325.
And let me move this over again.
So this is your policy manual for observations. It's very clear. A lot of the things that the state board adopts in the policy manual is not as clear as this. It's pretty concise. So it's a great little reference for you to take along and look at when you start looking at observation cycles for teachers. If you can just scroll on down there, Dr. Stedman. So it goes through pretty clearly the process. If you look there, the orientation, these are things that you've completed as a teacher and as an administrator, some of you working now, to be able to do an orientation, the teacher self-assessment, your pre-observation conferences that have to take place, talks to you about the meaning for each of them. Just kind of keep on scrolling down there, Dr. Stedman. So your pre-observation, your observation cycles there for your teacher. It talks about, in this policy, a probationary teacher, a career status teacher. It helps you define those, how many observations they're expected to have, what you're supposed to include in that post-observation conference, and then that summary evaluation conference and that scoring rubric after you've gone through it. And then it kind of gets down towards the bottom here about PDPs and professional development plans. There are 3 types of PDPs you're going to create for teachers when we talk about instructional growth, instructional leadership as an administrator. These 3 that are categorized here in the policy are an individual growth plan, which is what pretty much all of your teachers are going to be on that are proficient. Your good teachers, your career status teachers, those folks you're not worrying about, that you're working with your smallest amount of time, that you know are replicating great things in your building, those are going to be the bulk and majority of your teachers are going to be just on an individual growth plan. And you're going to put 2 or 3 goals in there. Sometimes that can be district mandated for you. Sometimes that can be completely left up to you as the principal. But that'll be your individual growth plan. Then there's a monitored growth plan. And that is if you have a rating of developing on any single standard throughout your summary evaluation. So if you have that summary evaluation at the end of a year, depending where you're at in that contract, and you have any standard single or more that's marked developing or not demonstrated, then you're going to create a monitored growth plan, and it talks about the general statute for that, 115C 333, and we're going to look at that here in a second. And then it goes into a directed growth plan, so you're getting a little more. That individual growth plan is not working for them. That monitored plan may not be working for them, but you're going to go to more of a directed growth plan for a teacher, and you're going to identify very specific strategies, very specific goals that you want worked on, very specific timelines that is spelled out in that general statute that we're going to take a look at here. And they have a year to accomplish this, or it can be a shorter time for them depending on what is going on with that teacher that you're delivering instruction and coaching to. So that kind of takes you through that directed growth plan there. And then it goes on through here in the policy, and it kind of classifies for you beginning teachers, probationary teachers, abbreviated annual evaluations, what those mean. You can kind of go through, I won't read for you there, but it kind of takes you and identifies for you what those are as an administrator. Dr. Stedman, if you can jump to the next document there, I believe.
Oh, shoot. What did I do?
Nothing.
Nothing. Let me see what it. Oh, man. Give me a second, guys. I've got to figure out where it went.
Go back to your Chrome button.
Okay. Okay, let me see. I must have taken it out. I'm sorry.
No.
Give me a second. Like I said, I will figure this out. And
while Dr. Stedman's working to pull those back up, thank you, Dr. Stedman, for working to do that.
yeah, just talk. Just talk. I've got to get this out.
There's a couple of things that you can kind of take away from this, because you're going to go through and read, hopefully, that general statute 115C. Go through and read it. It's really important that you kind of take a look at it and have your head wrapped around that for future reference, because we're all going to inherit teachers as instructors that we need to grow. That's the point of it. We need to grow them. And there's a way, and there's legislation that we have to follow to help them grow. Yes, we're going to be in their classrooms on a daily basis. Yes, we're going to be working with these folks no matter where they're at. But there's specific guidelines for teachers, you know, as kind of Dr. Crawford spelled out for you there in that red line where those folks or those students, we are talking about lives and we're talking about students. And if you continue to assign students to teachers who are not growing their kids year after year after year after year, and we're not doing anything about it, we're the ones failing the kids. No longer is it the instructor in the classroom. As administrators, we're responsible for that teacher. And I always go back and put my parent hat on. Would I assign my own kid, an 8-year-old and 10-year-old, would I put them in this teacher's classroom, knowing what I know? If I answer no to that, and I'm not doing anything to help that teacher grow in the building or out of the building, then we're not doing our job. And,
well, you know, a lot of decisions I made over the years as a principal, when I was a principal, I had to base it on the fact, you know, I had a son in school at the time, and if it was not good enough for my own child, then it was not good enough for somebody else's child. And so I had to make some hard decisions based on what you just said, Dr. Shepard.
So if you can pull up that professional development plan there, Dr. Stedman.
This one?
Yes, sir.
Okay, got you. Dr. Crawford, you tell me what to hit next time so I won't go out of the system.
Well, next time, just scroll over to your Chrome icon, and all your windows will be there.
Okay.
So this is your sample professional development plan. If North Carolina, you guys have all seen these. I don't think there's a reason to spend enough time on this, but I did want to bring it up for you because, again, we are talking about MIPS, mandatory improvement plans, directed monitored improvement plans. You're going to want to make sure when you're creating these plans for teachers that you're specifically identifying those professional teaching standards there that are listed, where they need to improve, how they need to improve, what elements need to be addressed, those goals, those actions, the timelines there. If you look at this, you talk about your portfolio and what you're working on as students right now, your action plan is going to look a lot like this when you create that and put it into your portfolio. The evidences, the activities, the expectation and outcomes, the resources that are needed, the timeline. So it's clearly stated what an action plan here is. Who's going to be responsible for it? There's going to be a mentor. Is it going to? Are you going to sign that mentor? Where do they come from? A lot of that is spelled out for you in legislation, and we're going to look at that now. Dr. Stedman, if you can go pull up the general statute there, 115C.
Okay, Dr. Crawford, tell me where to go so I don't go out again.
You just scroll over to your Chrome icon, and you should see all the windows that you have open already. No, at the bottom.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, gotcha. Okay, I knew that. I just seen Looking Glass. Just okay, professional development plan. I'm gonna click on this and hope that that's it. Post attendee. That is not it. Well, it's close enough. I think I clicked out of that a while ago whenever when I was trying to do something. I think I just clicked out of it.
I always want our teachers to kind of keep in mind, it's something that was always told to me. It's something I talk to my teachers about because there's a lot of difficult conversations that take place when we talk about monitored growth plans or directed growth plans for teachers, especially those teachers when we're looking at what Dr. Crawford said, those folks who are underperforming with our students year after year. One thing I always tell teachers is that it's important for us to realize it is about growth, and it's important we'll give you feedback. But I want them to understand this, and it's a saying that you guys have probably heard before. Feedback is not a gotcha. It is an I got you. And if we constantly tell our teachers we're not playing gotcha with them, but we're playing I got you, and I got you means that we're going to give you two things. We're going to give you a healthy amount of pressure, because pressure is needed when it comes to feedback, but we're also going to give you an abundance of support. And if we're giving our teachers abundance of support, we're going to grow them. And so right at the very top there, if you scroll up right there where it says Evaluation Teachers in Schools, 115C, Dr. Stedman. I'm not going to read this, folks. I'll let you read it. But you can take a look.
Open it up. Do you want it opened up?
Yes, sir. I highlighted some areas here that you want to take a look at. At the very top, it talks about annual evaluations. We looked at those. Career status, all teachers who are assigned, important things to look at there in an annual evaluation, 3 observations per year. Career status teacher is going to be an annual evaluation, or up to LEA discretion. That could be different. Renewal years, no matter where you're at, if you're career status or not, are going to be a full 3 observations. If you scroll down, it mentions there Part B of 115C, mandatory improvement plans. So in a single observation cycle, if something's marked developing or not demonstrated, then you're going to put that person on a mandatory improvement plan. And it talks specifically about what that mandatory improvement plan is, how it's carried out. Also to remember that conduct can trigger a MIP. That's a really important thing that a lot of administrators don't realize, that if you have a conduct issue that is egregious enough for you or your superintendent or designee, you can create a MIP in the middle of a career status or year and put a teacher on a MIP if you believe it is egregious enough. If it's just a simple conduct issue, it doesn't have to necessarily go into the evaluation instrument. How this pairs with Dr. Crawford is, we're talking about growing teachers. The number one thing when you talk about scheduling is the schedule of your school drives your school. It is the most important part of your school. It's the vehicle of your school. And when you think about scheduling, you're talking about putting little human beings in a big human beings class, and you got to hope and pray on a daily basis that they're doing their job. But beyond hope and prayers, you get into their classroom and you find out what's going on. You look at that data, you mine it, and you ensure that teachers are growing kids by helping them grow as professionals using that observation rubric. And so these are some resources for you to go along and to work with. How does it affect your PLCs? How do great teachers affect your PLCs? You want to replicate the greatness. But how does a poor teacher affect your PLC? Are you partnering with them people in your PLCs that can help them grow? If you walk around, if you look around and your PLC is really weak, do you have 3 really weak teachers in there? Do you need to move some teachers around? Well, I don't want to do that because they'll be upset. Well, we don't work for adults, we work for kids. And so we have to be able to make difficult decisions based upon what our kids need. Sometimes that means it's not necessarily what our adults in our building want. There are some resources for you. I'm happy to answer any questions if you guys want to shoot them to me. Thank you, Dr. Stedman.
Okay, and Dr. Crawford, I realized what I did. I did not minimize that page a while ago, and that's why I have to keep going back to it. So I apologize. Go ahead and talk, Dr. Crawford, while I am.
And I think now will be a good time to play that clip, because I think Dr. Shepard did a phenomenal job. But I think one of the things that he didn't tell you was you will be surprised, ladies and gentlemen, just how many principals, unfortunately, will not engage in those difficult conversations. Beyond the human resources factor as principals that we deal with, the North Carolina courts have ruled that, believe it or not, teaching jobs are a property right. So there's an extra layer that if you get to a point where you have coached all you can coach, and you've done all you can do, and there are way too many principals that will just say, to heck with it, I'll just help them find a new place. And what happens is, those individuals get passed around. So I've got a little 1-minute clip of a much longer video if you ever get a chance to take a look at it. And while it's centered in Milwaukee, in a union state, having done this for as long as I have, and just to give you an example, I've actually had a counselor on an action plan for over 2 years. Walked into the lawyer's office to have that final meeting with a file 3.5-inch thick, and it still wasn't enough. So that's 2 years of work in a file, that thick. So it's work, folks. But again, as Dr. Shepard said, we work for kids, not adults. So sometimes the adults in the building will forget that.
That's why those first 3 years are so important. Those first 3 years are so important to grow a teacher and get them to where you think they can be with working with kids. Because after those first 3 years, there's a lot of research out there that talks about how some of those teachers will drop off from year 4 to 7, or they're going to be their greatest from year 4 to 7. You'll see a little drop off there. But those first 3 years are really, really important.
Keep on talking. I figured out what I needed to do, so I won't have to keep going back out.
There you go.
I want to add that I read in a book once that teachers are sort of like high school children, and there's always, they don't always get in with like the best, but there's always room with the worst group to take in others, and they really always want other people to be on their side. So when you have those first 3-year teachers, intentionally place them near your best teachers so that those are who they hook up with and they are mentored by and they see those models by. That's just a part of that intentionality that when we're trying to mold those teachers by giving them access to our very best teachers.
I have found the most important tool for me when it comes to what you're talking about, Dr. Hamilton and Crawford, is our folks around the best people in our building. Is I do at least one observation a year for my teachers. One of my teachers, whether they're career, standard, doesn't matter, during their planning period. They're not teaching, they're not instructing, but what are they doing in their planning period? What are they doing? If a teacher is working during their planning period and they're diving into information and data and they're working on all the important things that they should be working on during the planning period, then I guarantee you their class is going to be rocking. And that sends an important message when an administrator walks into their room, sits down in their planning period and says, "What you doing? Let's talk about it. Let me look at what you're working on." That will grow folks. I've found in great experience. I learned that from my mentor a long time ago, that an observation in the planning period is as powerful a thing as you can do. And it really sends a great message to your teachers that a planning period is one of the most, if not the most important thing you can do during the day.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So we're going to move into, Dr. Crawford, you want to say anything about what they're fixing to see, the lemon dance?
I think it speaks for itself between everything that Dr. Shepard just said and myself, so I'm just go with it.
Okay, well, let's move on then.
What that is a provision in the contract.
It's coming back.
What that is a provision in the contract that provided what we call the dance of the lemons. And the dance of the lemons. So when you have a system that's completely dysfunctional, you see good people do strange things. In Milwaukee, they call it the dance of the lemons. Here's how it works. Principals have their lemons. These are teachers who are chronically bad. They know it. The other teachers know it. The school knows it. But the union contract says you can't fire them. So at the end of the year, all the principals get together and they do the lemon dance. Fred gives Jack his lemons. Jack gives Sally his lemons. Sally gives Greg her lemons. The lemon dance. Each principal hopes the teachers he's stuck with at the end of the dance are somehow better than the ones he's getting rid of. And that this year, he'll finally be able to take his lemons and make lemonade.
Wow, that is powerful, guys. Don't need to say anything else.
Don't pass the lemons, folks.
That's
Difficult
right.
conversations, grow them, or help them find another profession.
is right. Give me a second. I can pull this up. There we okay. The next thing that I want to speak to you briefly about is just a reminder of you should be working on your case studies this week, and you should be getting with your Zoom teams. And again, all that information is provided for you. Make sure that when you come together, it's not a time to talk about, the sales at Belk or what. Make sure that your conversation is a scholarly conversation, that you make it aligned to what you have read in the case study. There are questions at the bottom of the case study that you are supposed to fully address. Whoever the Zoom leader is, your responsibility is to keep things moving in the right direction. Your responsibility will be to upload this video when it's over with and provide each of the members of your team with a copy of that video. And remember, you are to do a reflection. All of that is in there, a reflection, and you're to attach a copy of the Zoom link as well, for this discussion that you're going to have with the case study. And remember that the case study is all the content is aligned with what you have done with evidence 1 of the APSL. That is just a reminder. The next thing that we're going to go into is Dr. Hamilton is going to be talking to you about a very, very important concept, and that is marketing your school. Dr. Hamilton.
Okay, hi. If you can pull up that PowerPoint, that would be awesome. So the biggest takeaway, let's just go ahead and get that out there. The biggest takeaway of this is create your consistent story with your staff, make it something they can repeat, create it, and repeat it, repeat it, repeat it, repeat it, repeat it. If you don't create your own message and get your own message out there, other people will create your message, and you might not like the message that they create. So hopefully this PowerPoint will come up. So go ahead to the slide number 2. So slide number 2 says, "It's my pleasure to serve you." Anybody know where that comes from? Chick-fil-A. So they have that consistent message that is out there, and whether they have the most pleasurable employees or not, that is the message that they send. You can't go through McDonald's or Wendy's or Hardee's or Burger King or anywhere else and know exactly what's going to be said to you when you go through, but you can know when you go to the Chick-fil-A. You can expect, and if you ever go through and they don't say it, so there's a training that's in this consistent message, and there is power in the consistency of a unified message, because it becomes sort of like your brand that people identify you with. And if you'll go ahead to the next slide, Dr. Stedman, thank you. And if you don't really have that brand, you can be the best school in the world, but it's sort of an unremarkable thing because you don't really, nobody can really attach anything to it. And people sort of just make their own statements or their own thoughts about you. And the people that really tell your story, that front desk receptionist, think about her. How many people call, "Oh, I'm thinking about moving into the area. What can you tell me about your school?" Do you want your front desk receptionist to come up with that? Or do you want to give her something to say to them? Custodians, when they're at their meetings or at the grocery store, your cafeteria workers, anyone who's in your school, in the grocery store, wherever they are telling your message. Tell me about your school. Give them something to say. Think about your school's automated answering machine when people call. What message do you want to send? The first thing mine says is, "Welcome to Parsley Elementary, home of the Patriots. We value your child's instruction. Therefore," and then we give this long list of things. My friend's school says, "We value your child's safety. Therefore." So what do you want them to know about your school, just from the messages you are sending? So work with your entire staff, because if your entire staff are the people that's going to be giving these messages, they all have to have buy-in in that. They have to believe in that. They have to create that elevator speech or that marketing message. And then they have to practice it. They have to see it. They have to hear it repeatedly, so that when someone says, tell me about your school or tell me about where you work, then they have a go-to and they're not trying to create it on their own. So will you go to slide 4, Dr. Stedman?
I will, and I will tell you, the students that are in semester 2 right now in the 603, they are beginning the communication, working with evidence 4, which is dealing with the outside community and the communication with the inside and the outside. And so their action plan is going to be, what can they do to improve that communication? Right now, this right here is something that you'll be able to refer back to whenever you are in school this summer and you're working on evidence 4. So please remember that.
Thank you. So my platform as regional principal of the year when competing for state principal of the year was to make North Carolina public schools the very best choice for parents. And for us to do that, we have to convince parents that North Carolina public schools are the very best. So for those of us in public school. So to do that, we would want to market our school with elevator speeches. We want to communicate the positive contributions that we make to the community. We are a pivotal part of the community. And we need to make sure that we are communicating those positive contributions. So we need that common language. It's my pleasure to serve you. We need that common language and that message that we are constantly sending out, living, talking the talk and walking the walk. So if you'll go on to slide 5. So what is an elevator speech? Well, it's brief, no longer than 20 to 30 seconds, the ride of an elevator. Think about it as your 30-second commercial for your school. It should be interesting, memorable, passionate, and succinct. Can you get that video to play for me, Dr. Stedman?
If I go on to, because I'm going to have to go out and come back in, can you talk about the rest of the things while I'm getting to that place and not have to come back in here? Have you got your materials in front of you?
I actually don't, but that's okay.
This would not work, so I had to bring it separate. Okay. Go ahead and talk about this, and we'll come back to the elevator.
Okay, so they're just basically 6 elements, and there they are. So when you start to think about that in 603, or if you're going to do that for part of your internship hours, that could be a great way for you to be able to get some of those internship hours, is to work with your staff to come up with a positive message to buy into and to tell about your school. There are 6 elements of that. And then go ahead and look at number 7 down there at the bottom for me just quick. So it's up to you as the leader in your building to market your school with that consistent message that everyone has a buy-in to, so that when anyone in your community thinks about your school, they automatically think,
oh, I'm sorry.
Message. No, you're fine. They automatically think about your message. So just like when you go to Walmart and someone waits on you and you say, oh, thank you, and they say, oh, it's my pleasure, the first thing I always think is, well, that person used to work at the Chick-fil-A. So just always have that consistent message, so that when somebody thinks about your school, that's that mental model that positive mental model that pops in their mind about your school.
Chick-fil-A, they act like they feel good whether they feel good or not.
Correct. That's right.
I mean, you wouldn't know that they're having a bad day.
That's right. And just that consistency in that message. And so it's up to us to create that consistency in that message for our schools, and to get that message out there so that everyone knows what's important to us and our school, our culture, our climate. And you have to provide your folks with that language and that vocabulary, because you don't want to let them be at their own devices for that. So here's a little video about an elevator speech.
last semester went okay. I'm really looking forward to this one a little bit more, but in a general sense, operations is going much better than any of my other classes last semester. I'm looking forward to how that turns out. And I mean, I just can't believe, especially money and banking, and please, I do what I do. Oh, hang on. I'm in the elevator with President Oldham right now. I didn't even, okay, hang on. No, stop, no, okay. Hey. And I mean, if you've got anybody in the College of Business or anybody that knows, if you need a qualified professional, somebody that will actually get the job done well, then you know what? You know who to talk to. All right, so, okay.
Oh my God, hi. I'm Chris. It's nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, President Oldham. I'm a College of Business ambassador, and I like art and painting and wakeboarding. My mom is like our biggest fan. Can we take a picture together really quick? Will you hold it? Take our picture? Your arms are longer.
Okay.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. I'll send it to her. Okay. So, how are things? How's the First Lady and the kids? Y'all just say cheese?
Sure.
So, what are your plans as president?
Well,
What was it? Have you met Austin Eagle? He's really cool. I like your shoes. They're really shiny. Do you shine them yourself? You're the president. I bet you have somebody to do that for you.
That's cool.
You're just the nicest guy. Oh, this is my floor. I'll see you later.
Hey, President Oldham.
Hello.
My name is Jessica Terrell.
Hey, Jessica.
I'm a College of Business ambassador, and I'm also on the speech and debate team. I have some great ideas that could really help this college. I know you're a very busy man, but I would love to let you hear them.
I'd love to hear them. I'm just headed to lunch. I was going to grab a bite. You want to go talk now?
Yes, thank you. I love that.
That'd be great.
Okay. Dr. Hamilton, why I'm bringing this all together, bring closure to this.
Okay, so just like it just said, just be prepared with the message you want to send so that when the opportunity arises, you are ready, you know what to say, you're not stumbling, and you want to send out a perfect message about your school, a positive message about your school, so that when people think about you or your school, they have a positive connotation and hopefully something to attach so that they have a, just like with Chick-fil-A, it's our pleasure to serve you.
All right, great. Class, you have been given a lot of great information this evening. Thank our instructors for the preparation and the work ahead of time to bring this information to you. You will find all of this to be beneficial as you are moving forward with becoming an administrator and then working with the evidences that you are going to be entrusted with over the rest of this semester and the next 2 semesters after that. All this information can and will be used if you would refer back to it. And again, you will find all of this posted under week 7 in Blackboard in your course shell. Bringing closure to things as a reminder, we do have a town hall, a very important town hall that will be scheduled for Monday, March the 4th at 7 o'clock. You'll get the information and the invitation to join ahead of time. It will actually be posted after tonight. I didn't want to put anything in there because sometimes when you get too much of those invitations in there, you get confused with them, and I wanted to wait until tonight's session was over with before that information got out, but that will be next Monday. The whole purpose will be we will have brought closure to the APSL, and the whole purpose will be that Dr. Lamb is going to speak openly about the APTEL and to bring his experience and expertise into that. So I would encourage you, please be around next Monday at 7 o'clock as we are bringing an introduction to the APTEL. And then again, on Tuesday, we will have our regular Zoom class. We will do some follow-up with, some further work with the APTEL, and I will actually get you started on the APTEL so that you'll have the next couple of weeks to be working on that. And then our instructors will also have some valuable information that they will be sharing with you as well. Hope the rest of your week is good. You need to be getting you know what's due, the coursework that's due. If any of you owe us any work, you need to get that to us as soon as possible. It's time to get everything cleaned up and cleared with the APSL and anything that is associated with it over the next week, week and a half.
Dr. Stedman, there's a couple questions there.
Sure. Go ahead. Go ahead. Can you address them?
I can ask. Rosalind's asking if the case studies are due week 8.
Week 8, yes. That Sunday night, week 8, yes. Yes, Rosalind. And Rosalind is one of our students that has completed the APSL and got a 4.0. Congratulations, Rosalind.
And Angelina's asking if they needed to cite sources on the case study reflection.
No, they do not have to.
Okay.
They can, but it's not a requirement.
And that's the only questions I see.
Okay, you know how to reach out to us if you need us, and we're available. Again, thank everybody for such a good class this evening. Y'all have a good rest of your week. I hope it's good.
All right, good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.